going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and I want to give a big shout out to Quantum Fix, Greg FPS, Dexter, Junior, and that friendly guy. We've all been working together for quite a few hours today trying to get this damn secret trophy solved, and it's my pleasure to announce that while we do have a method that's worked about 8 games in a row, it's very buggy, and I do believe this trophy is in fact glitched and hopefully does get fixed with the next patch that Treyarch puts out for tagged or Toten. But here's how we did this, right? And there's a lot of factors that are involved here. You get in a co-op game, you access the fleeing rat facility by using Dynamite, no pun intended. If you don't know how to get Dynamite in your game, I'll have a guide to that later on in this video. But once you have everything open and you can access the fleeing rat facility, you want to have everybody in your match do a bunch of finger 8s on the flinger, and keep in mind here, there will be a chance that 1 or 2 of you guys get flung over to the big iceberg. We've tested this in many different games with different amounts of players. It currently doesn't work on solo. We've had people go for hours on solo doing finger 8s and the flinger just wouldn't send them over to the big iceberg. But in a co-op game, 2-player, 3-player, and even 4-player, this has worked just about every time, but does take quite a few attempts on the flinger. Could be up to 10 or 15 attempts doing finger 8s on it, and it'll eventually send 1 or 2 people over there. Now keep this in mind now, there's a lot of factors involved with how this works, and it's very buggy. So when one person gets sent over there, they can obviously swim up to the Mars area, hold square to return, and they'll get the trophy. But when 2 people get sent over there, this is where bugs come in. So I'll give you an example from my game. Greg and I got flung over to the giant iceberg, and only he got the trophy when going up to the Mars area and holding square to return. When he held square to return to the main map, the prompt no longer appeared on my screen to return to the map, so I was stuck there with nothing I could possibly do. Him and Dexter then died off on the main map, and I was left there to do nothing. I still didn't get the trophy, so when I tried swimming back underwater, I eventually died, of course, because there's nowhere you can swim to then breathe. I died and instantly blue screen, so none of this saved on theater mode. So here's the thing as well, whenever our other friends were able to replicate this and get it working in game, every time they then ended their game, they would get a big UI error and they would disconnect from servers, essentially breaking the game as well. So no matter what, if you get this done successfully, you will either blue screen or disconnect from the servers after you end the game. It is unbelievable. So far nobody's blue screen or disconnected when they've gotten over to the area. It's just when you end the game or die is when you get these errors in game. The other thing about this is that there are some physics involved with how this could possibly be explained. So doing finger 8s on the fling rat facility could make a little bit of sense in the way where you do finger 8s to put enough pressure on the actual gearbox, and then once enough pressure is there, it has enough power to then throw you all the way to that big iceberg outside of the map. That's the only way I could explain what exactly we did. But also keep this in mind, we did not build a shield or the heat pack in our games. You do not need any equipment, any Easter egg steps, nothing done to get this working. This method could be done quite quickly as long as you get the actual cranks from the other side of the map, get the zip lines ready, and then you get the zip line handle from Pablo to be able to access the facility area of the map. Now the other thing is that when this does work, you will guarantee yourself death when you're trying to swim over to the Mars area, which is why you do want the heat pack to be able to swim that far, and you also want to use the talking about regeneration elixir if you have it, because if you don't want to build a heat pack and you want to get this done very quickly, you could just pop that elixir when you start swimming, and you'll make sure that you don't end up bleeding out when you're swimming down there, because obviously you'll start forming ice around yourself and you can break out of it, but you'll eventually take damage when you're under there for too long because you can't breathe. So that's where talking about regeneration does come in handy. But if you don't want to use that elixir or you don't have it, the heat pack does work just fine, but unfortunately there's no other way you can really get yourself up to the Mars area unless you take out your katana, and start, zooming past there underwater, and you build yourself some armor before you bleed out. I think the person out there who first got this didn't have the talking about regeneration elixir and didn't have dying wish, but I believe he did have his specialist handy. So when he started taking damage and almost died, he just took out his katana to give himself a little bit of armor and a couple more seconds of time, and then by the time he got up to the surface finally by Mars, he had about 50 HP left. So it's possible to do with your specialist, the elixir, talking about regeneration, or even dying wish, but a heat pack also makes a lot of that easier. But I'm just making it clear that you don't need any equipment to actually trigger this flinger to finally work. Now again, this is very inconsistent and it's a very buggy trophy, and I don't believe this is even the intended way you're supposed to do this. But if it is the intended way you're supposed to do this, then there's no reason why you should be blue screening or disconnecting from servers after you end your game. It's also very buggy, and I almost want to say it's only meant for one person to be flung there at a time, because again, Greg and I were both swimming there, both saw the Mars area, and both had prompts on our screen to return to the main map, but only he got the trophy. Then once he returned to the main map, that prompt disappeared for me, which means it's it's really only intended for one person to be able to use that boat to get back to the main map. Now, in terms of some story explanation for what this even means, obviously it's playing on the old theory that Shangri-La happens on Mars, and it's quite funny because they kind of played on that in Zombies Chronicles as well. When you enter Eclipse mode, you can see, I believe, a certain moon that only appears when you're on Mars. So they played on that theory again with Shang. So I believe the Zombies Chronicles version of Shangri-La is kind of going with that theory that Shangri-La is on Mars when you enter Eclipse mode, but the main area of Shangri-La is still in the Himalayas, as confirmed by Brock and Gary, and that was also reconfirmed and classified as well. But I do think that theory holds some weight to some extent. Maybe just when you're in Eclipse mode, that's where that happens. And there's also some information about Pablo trying to leave Siberia because he's been stuck there for quite a while, right? And there is, I think, a cipher or a radio where he explains every time he tries to leave Siberia and ends up at that Mars area, he doesn't even know if he's on Earth anymore, but when he tries to go even farther, it's kind of a paradox or a loop where he gets sent back to Siberia. So he himself has said he cannot leave wherever he is at until the main Easter egg is complete, when we allow him to escape, tag their Toten, and he then goes to the Great War. But in terms of story, it's a really cool detail that I'm really glad they added in. However, from a gameplay point of view, it is indeed very broken, but as I've made clear many times, the buddies who helped us finish this today have done this, I think, more than 8 times in a row, and I've always gotten it to work for at least one person in their game. However, they weren't able to make the flinger do it a second time in that same game. So I don't know if it's glitched or not, but it seems like this is only a one-time activation in one match that you play. And at one point we thought that maybe you have to land on all those wooden boxes to get those heat pack parts, and maybe when you build the heat pack, that would serve as a prerequisite to then cause the flinger to throw you all the way to that iceberg. But we've had games where we did break all those wooden boxes by landing on them with the facility flinger, but we didn't even make the heat pack and it still sent us there. We've also had other buddies not even break any of those wooden boxes or collect any of the heat pack parts, and they were also still sent to the giant iceberg. So there's absolutely no consistency with this trophy whatsoever. We also have proof of somebody out there using the bolt flinger that's supposed to send you to Golden Pack, but instead sent them to this iceberg as well. So we're still going to do a lot more testing. There will definitely be some follow-up videos talking about some more direct methods, more consistent ways you can do this, and how you can even get the bolt flinger to send you over to this area as well. And I'm sure there's also a separate method for solo, so be on the lookout for more coverage of that very soon. So the bottom line about this Easter egg is
it's a fucking shit show.
And it may or may not send 1 or 2 people there. So again, a lot of factors involved, and I hope that maybe when the next patch comes out for Tag Their Toten, not only will these bugs be fixed for the method, but maybe there's even a more direct method to getting there that we just don't know about. But I do believe in terms of physics, it makes sense to kind of overload the gearbox, put enough pressure on it so it has enough power to then throw you over to that flinger. But when it comes to a co-op game, I believe everybody who was in that match has to take part in doing those finger 8s in order for that flinger to get enough power and charge to then throw 1 or 2 people over to that area. But you kind of want to hope that only one person gets thrown there in the match you're playing so that doesn't bug the other person out, because again, once you get stuck there, you are stuck there. There is no way out of there unless you get the prompt on the boat to return to the main map. And again, you do need a couple of things to even swim there in the first place, so make sure you're prepared with either Dying Wish, talking about regeneration, a heat pack, something that you can survive while you're swimming to the Mars area. But unfortunately, I wasn't given the trophy, so I'll have to try this again later on tonight with some other friends, and hopefully I get flung there and can then get the trophy and return to the main area of the map from there. But regardless if you get the trophy, you're still guaranteeing yourself a UI error, possibly a blue screen. It is very, very buggy indeed, and I don't know when it'll be fixed. But if you don't know how to get Dynamite here on the map, you want to make sure that you have at least snowballs or the ice tundra gun. You want to wait for those fire zombies to spawn in on the map, and you want to kill them, and when you kill them with a snowball or your tundra gun, they'll then drop a part for Dynamite. You can then craft Dynamite after getting all 3 parts at either the lighthouse station, the gangway, or the specimen storage. Those are where the 3 workbenches actually are here on Tag Their Toten. And there are 3 areas of the map you can actually destroy with Dynamite. Not only do we have the flinger over at Facility, we also have the area near Lagoon, also by a Pack-a-Punch location, which is by the campfire that you definitely want access to when doing the main Easter egg, since you'll be using it quite a bit. We then have one final spot you can blow up with Dynamite, which is near the OG spawn area, and it's also a spot that I believe many of us out there wanted to be open in the original Call of the Dead. This is easier to to get from the Lighthouse Cove area to the OG spawn. So it's really cool that they opened that up here in Tag their Toten. The only thing that sucks about having Dynamite on the map is that once you use it, you have to actually collect the parts again by killing 3 more fiery zombies, then taking all those parts to a workbench and crafting it again. But you only need 1 actual Dynamite to blow up the facility barrier so you can access the flinger and hopefully get your hands on that secret achievement. But that is about it. This has been DK Dynamite. Check all links down below in the description. What do you guys think about this buggy ass trophy known as the Secret, which really does work and is a bit of a trial and error experience, but luckily we've been able to replicate this about 8 games in a row. But it will take you a little while, so have patience when using the flinger and hoping that one of you guys at least gets your hands on that secret trophy. But really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everyone.